All right, welcome to another deep dive. Today we're going to be tackling Bitcoin.
Ooh, fun.
I know a lot of you listeners have been asking us to take a look at this.
Yeah, definitely a popular request.
So we've got the original white paper right here. Bitcoin, a peer-to-peer electronic cash system.
The OG.
Well,
The mysterious Satoshi Nakamoto.
yeah, exactly. And we're going to be breaking it down for you guys.
Absolutely.
We want to really get into how it actually works.
Yeah, beyond the hype.
Not just the buzzwords that get thrown around all the time.
Sure.
So, we really want to go deep with this one.
It's a deep dive after all.
That's right. So, when I was prepping for this episode, I gotta say, even I was surprised by.
Really?
Yeah, like some of the stuff in here, the level of thought that went into this.
Yeah.
Like, how do you prevent double spending?
Yeah.
Really interesting stuff.
It's a classic problem.
But I think before we get into all that,
Yeah.
maybe we should just sort of set the stage.
Yeah, lay the groundwork.
So what was the problem that Satoshi Nakamoto was trying to solve here?
Okay, so think about it this way. Like right now, how do you make an online transaction?
Well, you got to use your bank or a credit card company.
Right, exactly.
Maybe like a payment processor.
So there's all these middlemen involved.
Oh, yeah, true.
Right.
Yeah.
And every single one of them adds another layer of
Complications.
exactly complexity.
Fees.
Fees. Don't forget the fees.
Yeah, they're getting you every step of the way.
Exactly. So Nakamoto, he envisioned this system where you could cut out all these middlemen.
Wow.
Completely. So just direct, secure transactions between people.
Peer to peer.
Peer to peer. It's like the
Yeah.
title of the paper.
Yeah, it's all right there.
In the name.
So that makes sense, but I'm still a little fuzzy on how you actually create a digital currency
Yeah.
that can't be copied,
Right.
counterfeited.
Right, because it's not like printing paper money. Right.
Yeah, it's not physical.
Exactly. So this is where the whole idea of an electronic coin comes in.
Okay.
It's not like a physical object. Think of it more like a chain
Okay.
of digital signatures.
Oh, interesting.
So every time this coin is transferred to the new owner, they add their signature to the chain.
So I'm picturing if you could visualize it,
Yeah.
it could be like a chain with all these fingerprints on it.
That's a great analogy.
And that's how you track it.
Yeah, you got it. You can see the whole history of who owned that coin.
Okay, that makes sense.
But there's a catch.
Uh-oh.
What's to stop someone from just copying the coin and spending it a bunch of times?
Oh, right.
That's the classic double spend problem.
Yeah, that's a good point. I didn't think of that.
It's a huge challenge for any digital currency.
So how do you?
Bitcoin tackles this head on with this public decentralized ledger.
Uh-huh.
It's called the blockchain.
Here we go.
The blockchain everyone's always talking about.
Yeah, but honestly, I still don't really get it.
Yeah. It can be kind of mysterious. So let me try demystify it a bit.
Please.
All right, picture this. A massive digital record
Okay.
of every Bitcoin transaction ever, constantly being updated and checked by a whole network of computers.
Wow.
That's the blockchain. And a key part of maintaining this is, you guessed it, the timestamp server.
Okay, now that just sounds like sci-fi.
It does, right?
So what does it actually do? How does that help?
So basically, it takes a bunch of transactions, bundles them together into a block,
Okay.
and then it creates a unique fingerprint
Uh-huh.
for that block. It does this by using something called a cryptographic hash,
Oh, okay.
like a digital notary,
Okay.
that's verifying everything and timestamping it,
Oh, I see.
so you can't mess with it.
Makes it tamper-proof.
Exactly. And that timestamp block, it gets broadcast to the entire network.
Oh, wow.
It becomes part of the permanent record.
So that's how you know it happened.
That's how you know.
Interesting.
So now, here's how it ties into the double spend problem. The blockchain is structured, so these blocks, they're chained together.
Ah, okay. The chain in blockchain.
Exactly. And they're in chronological order.
Oh, that's clever.
Right.
Yeah.
But now the question is, how do we stop someone from just going back and changing those blocks?
Oh, right, because then they could rewrite history.
Totally. They could cover up a double spend that way.
Oh, gosh.
So this is where the magic of proof of work comes in.
Oh, okay, proof of work. Now, that's another one of those terms I hear all the time.
Yeah, it's the mechanism that actually makes the whole Bitcoin network secure.
All right, so break it down for me. How does that work? What is that?
Think of it like a competition.
Oh?
These participants in the network, they're called miners.
Uh-huh. Miners?
And they're all trying to solve these super complex math problems.
Oh, wow. So they're competing?
Yeah,
And
constantly.
whoever solves it first.
Boom. They get to add the next block of transactions to the blockchain.
So it's like a race to update the ledger.
It is, and that's what makes it so secure.
But couldn't someone just create like a fake chain of blocks with like fake transactions on it?
Theoretically, yes, but it's practically impossible.
How
The
come?
amount of computing power you would need to solve these problems,
Oh, wow.
it's massive. To fake a block, you'd have to control most of the network's computing power.
So it's like a strength in numbers type of thing.
Exactly. More people mining, more difficult it becomes to manipulate.
Yeah, that's clever. The system is designed to protect itself.
It really is.
So what motivates these miners to use all this computing power?
Great question.
What's in it for them?
It leads us to another fascinating part of Bitcoin, the incentive structure. It's actually brilliant. When a miner adds a new block to the blockchain, they get rewarded
Oh, okay.
with brand new Bitcoins.
So they're literally creating new money.
Yeah, it's called the block reward.
Interesting. So like everyone's incentivized to keep the network going.
Exactly, that's the whole idea.
Wouldn't that just create like an endless supply of Bitcoin?
That's where it gets even more interesting. The block reward, it's not constant.
Oh, okay.
It actually gets cut in half
What?
every 210,000 blocks,
Wow.
which happens about every 4 years.
So it's like a built-in scarcity.
Yeah, exactly. It slows down the creation over time.
So eventually it'll just stop.
Well, yeah, eventually the block reward will reach zero.
So then what happens? What keeps the miners motivated?
That's where transaction fees come in.
Oh.
So users who want their transactions to go through faster,
Right.
they can include a small fee,
Uh-huh.
and the miners, they'll prioritize those transactions.
That makes sense. So as that block reward goes down,
Right.
the transaction fees become more important.
Yeah, eventually they'll become the main incentive for miners.
Wow. So the whole system is like self-regulating?
It is pretty amazing.
Yeah, that's really clever. So like the incentive shifts over time to keep the network secure and running smoothly.
Exactly.
But this whole mining thing, it sounds like it uses a ton of energy.
Yeah, that's a valid concern.
Right, with all the computers and everything.
Definitely. And the Bitcoin community is trying to figure out how to deal with that.
I mean, it's a big issue with climate change and everything.
Oh, for sure.
Are there like any solutions in the works?
Yeah, so some developers are looking at different ways to reach consensus
Uh-huh.
that don't use as much energy as proof of work,
Oh, okay.
and others are focused on making mining more sustainable.
Like using renewable energy?
Exactly. Things like solar and wind power.
Okay, well, that's good to hear.
Yeah, it's a work in progress for sure.
It sounds like it.
But let's switch gears for a second.
Okay.
Let's talk about how transactions actually happen on the network.
Yeah, I'm curious about that.
So let's say you wanted to send me some Bitcoin.
Okay.
What would you do?
Well, I guess first I'd need like a Bitcoin wallet.
Exactly. You need a place to store your Bitcoin.
So it's kind of like a digital bank account?
Pretty much. You can store, send, and receive Bitcoin with it.
Okay, so I've got my wallet set up.
All right, you're ready to go.
What now?
When you want to make a transaction, your wallet sends a message
Mm-hmm.
out to the entire Bitcoin network.
Wow.
It's got all the transaction details,
Hmm.
like your public key, the recipient's public key, and the amount of Bitcoin you're sending.
Public key, is that like that digital signature thing we were talking about?
Bingo. It's like your Bitcoin address.
Oh, okay.
And then your private key is like your password.
Okay.
You need that to authorize any transactions.
Of it.
So you broadcast this message to the network.
All right.
What happens next is the miners collect all these pending transactions,
Okay.
group them together into blocks like we were discussing.
Yeah, the blocks.
Then they race to solve that proof of work puzzle.
Right.
Whoever wins gets to add their block to the blockchain.
So that's when my transaction is official.
Exactly. It's
Yeah.
all recorded and permanent.
No going back.
Nope, that's the beauty of it.
Yeah,
Immutability.
I like that word.
It's a good one.
So we've talked about the security and the blockchain itself, but what about my Bitcoin? Like, how is that protected?
It all comes down to how you protect your private key.
Oh, right, like my password.
Exactly. If someone gets a hold of your private key,
Uh-oh.
they control your Bitcoin.
Yikes. So no posting that on Twitter.
Definitely not. The white paper emphasizes keeping your private keys super safe.
Like hiding it under your mattress?
Haha. Well, maybe not that extreme, but you get the idea.
Okay, so security is super important.
It's crucial.
But what about privacy?
Good question.
I know the blockchain is public,
Right.
so can anyone just see all my transactions?
Not exactly. That's a common misunderstanding.
Okay.
So, yes, all transactions are recorded on the blockchain,
Oh.
but they're not directly linked to your identity.
Oh, okay.
They're associated with your public key,
Right.
not your name or any personal info.
So it's kind of like a pseudonym.
Yeah, you can see the activity, but not who's behind it.
Okay, so there's some anonymity there.
And the white paper suggests using a new key pair for every transaction.
Oh, wow. That's smart.
Right. Makes it even harder to track you.
Okay, but it's not like completely foolproof.
Right. You're right, there are ways to potentially link transactions back to a person,
I figured.
especially if you're not careful.
So Bitcoin privacy is more about being smart and cautious.
Yeah. It's not about being totally invisible.
Makes sense. I can see why some people might be hesitant about using Bitcoin,
Uh-huh.
especially with all the stories about it being used for illegal stuff.
Right. But it's important to remember any currency can be used for bad things.
True.
Cash is still king in the black market.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Bitcoin's transparency might actually make it harder to hide illegal activity in the long run.
That's a good point because everything's recorded.
Exactly. And law enforcement is getting better at analyzing blockchain data.
Okay, so maybe it's more trackable than other methods.
Could be, yeah. It's definitely something to think about.
It's fascinating, though, how much thought went into designing this whole system.
Right.
We've talked about the blockchain, the incentives, the privacy concerns,
All the moving parts.
and this white paper was published back in 2008,
2008. Think about that.
way before Bitcoin became mainstream.
It's incredible. Satoshi Nakamoto was way ahead of the curve.
It's amazing how much Bitcoin has changed things.
And it's still evolving.
Really feels like we're just at the beginning.
Oh, absolutely. We're just scratching the surface.
So on that note, what are your thoughts on the bigger picture?
The bigger picture.
Like, where do you see Bitcoin going in the future? It really does feel like we're at like a turning point,
Yeah.
and Bitcoin is this road that leads somewhere new.
Yeah. Where does it go? It's exciting to think about.
What do you think? Where do you see it going?
I think it goes beyond just the technology.
Okay.
Bitcoin represents a shift in how we think about like money, trust,
Yeah.
power, even.
Right. And we touched on that idea of decentralization earlier, like
Yeah.
taking that control away from the big institutions.
Exactly. And that's where the philosophy behind Bitcoin gets really interesting. It's this vision of a financial system that's more open, more transparent,
Uh-huh.
and more equitable.
So people have more control over their money.
Exactly. You're not reliant on those traditional middlemen.
That's a powerful idea.
It is.
But it does raise some questions for me.
Like what?
Like about regulation, stability,
Yeah.
even national sovereignty. Like if everyone's operating on this decentralized network,
Right.
how do governments maintain control?
Yeah, those are some of the big questions. They're at the heart of a lot of the debates about the future of Bitcoin.
I can see how some people would see it as a threat.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
Like it could be used to avoid regulations
Yeah.
and destabilize economy.
Some people definitely see it that way.
But there's also the other side of that,
Right, absolutely.
where Bitcoin could actually help people
Totally.
and give them more financial freedom.
Especially in places where people don't have easy access to banks.
Right, it levels the
Okay.
playing field.
Exactly. Gives them access to financial services that they wouldn't have otherwise.
That's a really exciting possibility.
It is. It's about empowerment.
It feels like there's so much potential.
Yeah.
But even with all the good stuff, there are still some challenges, right?
Oh, yeah, definitely.
We've talked about the energy use, the need for good security,
Uh-huh.
the price volatility,
Those are all real issues.
things that need to be figured out.
If Bitcoin wants to go mainstream, yeah.
And what about scalability?
What do you mean?
Like, can the network handle it if everyone starts using Bitcoin?
Ah, right. Scalability. That's another big one.
Yeah.
There are a lot of smart people working on it,
Yeah.
trying to find ways to improve it, but it's a challenge for sure.
So a lot of work still to be done.
Yeah, but that's part of what makes it so interesting.
Right, it's constantly evolving.
Pushing boundaries,
Yeah.
making us rethink things.
This has been a really insightful deep dive.
I agree.
I've learned a lot.
Me too.
Any last words of wisdom for our listener?
I think the main thing to remember is this. Bitcoin isn't just some digital currency.
Right.
It's bigger than that.
How so?
It's like a technological, economic, and social phenomenon.
Wow.
It's changing the world.
In big ways.
Yeah, so no matter who you are,
Mm-hmm.
whether you're an investor or just curious about the future,
Yeah.
Bitcoin is something you should understand.
Well said. I want to thank our listener for sending in this white paper.
It is a great choice.
This deep dive has been a real eye-opener.
Glad to hear it.
And to all our listeners out there,
Yeah,
stay curious, stay informed,
keep exploring.
and we'll catch you on the next deep dive.
See it.